If you are over 40 and you are trying to decide whether or not you are doing too much cardio or you need to focus more on strength training, let's talk. I'm having a hot flash because I'm 46. I'm having a hot flash. This is probably a good intro. Maybe, I don't know. So we're going to get real today, and I mean, I'm real every day, but we're going to be extra real today because I am going to continue to stand on my slippery soapbox and talk to y'all about cardio versus strength training in terms of physique change. So for all of you that want to come for me and be like, cardio is important, I am not saying that it's not important, okay? I'm just saying that if your goal is to change your physique and you want to look more defined and toned and sculpted and more fit and athletic, I'm your bitch, okay? The boss bitch is your bitch. So let's jump in. For physique change, I want you to think of strength training, AKA weight training, as the cake, all right? We love cake. We love building our cakes. Everything else is the icing. I love me some icing. We ain't just gonna sit there and eat icing without eating the cake. So let's get into the icing and the cake of physique change. A lot of times I get women that come to me and they have two very opposing goals. I'll get someone who says, hey, you know, I really am wanting to train for this marathon or I don't know, 13K, 15K, whatever it is that you crazy people do. And also I want to weight train. And what I have to tell them is that you can be good at one, but you're not going to be excellent at both. Here's the thing. You will likely never squat the most, right? Like you're going to hit PRs in your squat and also run your fastest time in a marathon. There are two opposing goals there. You have to train very differently for both of those things, and one of them is going to suffer. So when you have this ambition, and I admire it because I did this for a period of time where I started powerlifting and I was bodybuilding and I was also doing extreme yoga, okay? And at that time, there were things that suffered. I was doing everything very mediocre. Now, when you start strength training, it could be very tempting to go back to your old ways. So if your old ways are lots of cardio, lots of classes, and things of that nature, this is when women get stuck in the trap. It's a trap. It's a trap. You don't want to be in that trap. So how much cardio do you do? Well, that is a very person-specific answer. And it's one that it would be very hard for me to give an absolute here in this video, which I'm sure you can imagine. However, when you are prioritizing physique change, you want to change your body through weight training. What needs to be prioritized is your strength training. And your cardio is also important, that good old icing. However, too much cardio is going to hamper your results with your strength training. Let me explain. If you're strength training, let's just say as a standard average decent programming, you're training 3 times a week. And let's say you're doing cardio for 5 times a week, right? Because you want the calorie burn, you're focused on, losing some body fat. What will tend to happen is your strength training will usually suffer. You won't be able to get into your strength training sessions feeling as strong. You're likely not going to be able to develop your body the way that you want to. And also, unless you're really focused on your diet and nutrition, things will start to fall through the cracks when it comes to your progress with your strength training. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Well, bodybuilding competitors do it all the time. Well, you're right. And a lot of times they're enhanced. I know because I was. Now, when you're an enhanced bodybuilder athlete, you're taking physique enhancing drugs. I mean, the name of the drug says it all. Physique enhancing, performance enhancing, however you want to look at it. These compounds usually aid in women or whoever's using them to be able to sustain their muscle mass, right? They're adding in hormones into their system, which then helps aid them in this process so they aren't losing muscle rapidly like somebody who is not. So if you are training in the gym and you're doing excessive amounts of cardio, this is why a lot of times we'll see our natural bikini competitors, when we have to get their food really low, we have to get their cardio, excessively high, and they're still training, 5 to 6 days per week, their bodies are going to look very different than somebody who is enhanced, because by the nature of them being natural, it is going to be a lot harder for their body to hold onto that muscle tissue. Your body just doesn't want to do that, right? It's not going to want to carry that expensive tissue, especially if you're putting it in any kind of threat or deficit with your nutrition and also your activity, right? Your cardio being way too excessive. So I am by no means telling anyone to be enhanced, but what I am telling you is that you need to prioritize that strength training. You need to prioritize your nutrition that actually supports your strength training goals. And if you have fat loss goals, and then let cardio be the icing on the cake. It should not be the priority and the top-notch thing that you go to when you want to drop body fat. Some people think, well, I'm going to do the stair stepper and that is going to grow my glutes, right? Like it's a step up, right? I'm doing a step up continuously for 30 minutes. Well, it is a form of resistance. You're adding a little bit of resistance in there because you are carrying your body weight up a revolving staircase for your cardio. However, the main energy system that's coming into play there is going to be a cardiovascular one. And so we can't bank on the fact that your stair stepper is going to be growing or sculpting your glutes. What I find is that girls who come to me that are very new to weight training and new to our style of training and cardio will see their legs get stronger and maybe their glutes, hold a little bit better shape because they are very new to it. They have that wonderful phase of newbie gains to where the stair stepper isn't going to be as detrimental as somebody who has been training for a long time and then decides they want to live on the stair mill for 6 days a week for 45 minutes. It's more than likely going to be easier for me to drop that muscle tissue because I'm doing way too much for my level of fitness. Whoops. Some great things to do when you are trying to focus on your strength training, but you still want to get some movement in, some cardio in. There are some other alternatives, right? Like getting in and increasing your natural everyday movement, your steps, looking at what your step count is. I always like to use this as the first order of operations when it comes to increasing movement. This is something that we have our clients track when they work with us on nutrition because it's important. If you aren't moving much and I give you a strength training program and then I want to throw you on a machine for 4 or 5 days a week, but you're only getting like 3,000 steps a day because maybe you have an office job and you commute for work, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. For your lifestyle and for your goals, something easier would be to implement short breaks throughout your workday. Get up, get away from your screen. If you have a 15-minute break, get outside, take a lap around the building, right? Take the stairs, park farther away from work. When you go to the grocery store, park farther away. When your kids are at their practices, walk around the stadium or the track, right? These are all things that I started doing and implementing when I started shifting into more of a healthy and fit lifestyle so I wouldn't have to live on a cardio machine. Then when you want to take it up a notch and you have the base foundation of your strength training and your movement and your diet, then we can look at layering on things like your cardio to add in a little bit more calorie burn and also elevating your metabolic rate after you're done with your cardio, right? Your heart rate will be elevated for a little bit. But I don't like to use it as the first line of defense when you're trying to get defined and sculpted and toned and change your physique. It is the icing on the cake. The other thing to consider when you are working in the gym and you are thinking about prioritizing cardio because when you get on the machine, it tells you you're burning 600 calories in 30 minutes. What I'm going to tell you is that these machines are very, very unpredictable. This is even more true the better shape that you're in, because if you plug in your weight and let's say, for example, for myself, I go and I plug in 150 pounds. That machine does not know how much muscle is on my frame, how old. You could type in your age, but metabolically, how you burn fat. Are you more efficient? Are there other factors going on? And so it's very reckless to depend solely on a machine giving you that data as how you really track your workouts and if you are indeed burning a specific amount of calories. And of course, it's goes without saying that the conversation around your physique change is highly predicated on your strength training and not your cardio. The other thing is if you notice that you're really hungry all the time, and right now you are doing a lot of group fitness, group classes, group cardio style things, maybe you're like in a running club, you get the idea, and you can't keep up with your appetite. You're really, really hungry. This is oftentimes a problem for a lot of women is they are doing excessive amounts of cardio, and with that, it starts to rev up your appetite. So what ends up happening is they go way off track in the evenings with their nutrition because they are hungry. They are ravenous. Now, this isn't to say that when you strength train, you aren't going to be hungry. However, muscle is expensive tissue to keep on. And generally speaking, the more muscle that you have on your frame, you can eat more calories without putting on as much body fat as your friends who might be spinning their wheels, pun intended, in their spin classes, cardio classes, and things of that nature. Strength training is going to allow for you to be able to eat more responsibly. Let me just add that asterisk in there. You can't just eat anything and everything because you strength train. However, when you strength train, you prioritize protein and you deprioritize excessive cardio, you're metabolically going to be in a better position, especially as you age, and you will be able to sustain more calories in your diet without gaining body fat. This is not usually the case for those that are doing a ton of excessive cardio. Now, in terms of the best of both worlds, I know that some of you really want to be able to do both. And I don't fault you for that. If you really enjoy cardio, I actually don't mind cardio. I'm in a fat loss phase right now. And so I've added it in because the other pillars of my lifestyle are intact and cardio is the last little addition to my plan, right? My sleep is on track. I'm getting at least 6 hours per night. My stress levels are great. I'm not under any, undue bad stress. I am training 3 days per week in the gym. I am taking my supplementation. I'm prioritizing protein. I'm doing all of the things that are going to be the foundation for fat loss. And then the last piece of that puzzle, if I want to have a little excess calorie burn, is layering in some cardio. But if you don't have all these other foundational key pieces in place, again, to my point earlier, it doesn't make sense to just have that knee-jerk reaction to say, I got to do cardio. I got to do cardio. Get the other factors in place. Stress is a huge one. Sleep is a huge one. Obviously, your nutrition and your diet is the most important one when it comes to fat loss. But these are the things that are going to be a priority before you layer in cardio. Now, when it comes to where should I put my cardio session, if I also want to include cardio while I'm also doing some strength training, I usually tell women to put their cardio on a different day. So if you're training 3 days a week, then put your cardio on another day when you're not already going there in training. Now, this might not be realistic for some of you. Schedule might not permit it. You might just trying to be knocking two birds with one stone. And that is possible, but I am going to at least have you heed my advice that if you do this, you want to make sure that you go into that gym session having been properly fed for that long duration of time. So if you're going to go in, you're going to do a leg session or a glute session, you can count on that probably being at minimum 45 to 50 minutes, depending. And if you're going to layer on cardio, that's going to add another 20 plus minutes onto your training session. That is a long time to put that sort of demand on your body and not be fueled properly for that, for all of that that's happening. When you go into the gym, you want to hit the strength training first. You want to be your freshest, your strongest, your central nervous system, everything is primed and ready for the hardest task of the day in your gym training session. And that means strength training needs to move to the top. Then when you're done with strength training, then you can add in your cardio. Let your cardio take a back seat and your strength training is the priority. So after your strength training, maybe you have some BCAAs, or, if you haven't had a meal before that was sufficient enough to last you, you can do something like an intra-workout carb. That's a little more of an intermediate/advanced technique, but absolutely doable. Some people just like the cheap old-fashioned way of adding some carbs in their training session by doing something like a Gatorade. It really depends on what your goals are, but you don't want to just continue to drill your body down with tons of cardio and not going into that with a properly fed system. You want to make sure that you're fed properly, because if you're not, then we can start dipping into catabolism and really being concerned with not building muscle and actually going backwards. And as soon as you're done training with weights, you want to start that recovery process as soon as possible. You've depleted your muscles. You want to now add back in so you can start to build and repair. Hence, the physique sculpting and changing will begin at that point, right? It's when you're in recovery after your training sessions that this stuff starts to take place, less of when you're actually in the training session, is when people think like, oh, I'm getting a good pump and like, this is when I'm growing my muscles. You're creating the stimulus, but the actual recovery part of things after you're done training is where that new muscle tissue is laid down and you start to create new shape with your physique. Now, one fact that I want to at least drive home for you, my friend, is that your strength training is going to build and maintain your muscle. Cardio does not do that, okay? Cardio does the opposite. It's not going to build up your muscle. Again, there are some newbie gains you might see doing the stair mill, and it actually keeping your legs nice and firm, but that is not where you're actually going to build and change a lot of shape. Your cardio is going to burn more calories during the session, which I mentioned in a previous episode. And I think I've already mentioned that here today in this episode. And your strength training is going to build more calories after your actual strength training session. You might not burn as many calories during, but it is after the fact where you will burn calories longer after that session than you would with a cardio session. Now, you're like, okay, Diane, but what about my health? Like, what about my heart health? And like, shouldn't I be doing cardio? Yes, you should. But again, to my point earlier, you want to make sure that you're already creating some kind of baseline of normal activity for yourself. And where this becomes incredibly helpful is having something like a step tracker. Now, I don't live and die by this thing. I don't do laps around my house until I hit 10,000 steps. However, I will periodically look at it. Like right now, it is 11:15 in the morning, and I only have 2,400 steps. And so I'm going to want to make sure that at some point I get out, I go for a walk, I'm going to go to the gym later and start to sort of bank up a little bit more NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis that is not directly related to intentional machine cardio. So getting out, going for a walk, getting out in nature, going for a bike ride, swimming, doing more active things that you enjoy are great. That's a great way to add some enjoyment into your health and hotness routine instead of feeling like you have to live on a machine. And that's what I actually prefer now. I prefer doing things that I enjoy for cardio because I'm not competing anymore. I'm in a fat loss phase for a fashion show that's coming up. However, it is not a competition. I'm not going to be judged based on my physique. So for that, I'm not going to kill myself on cardio piece of equipment 7 days per week for 40 minutes along along with my training. It's just not something I'm interested in doing. So you have to know what you are willing to sacrifice, what you're willing to do, and ask yourself, is this going to add to my life and enjoyment and my health and hotness, or is it going to detract, right? And it really comes down to your goals and the importance that you place upon those goals. So for me, for somebody else who might be doing the fashion show for the first time, never been on a stage before, and the thought of getting in a bikini in front of other people is absolutely frightening, like for some people, public speaking, then I could see where that can turn into, well, you know what? I've got this goal. I need to prioritize the things in order to get there because I've never done this thing before and it's a challenge for me and I want to see if I can get in the best shape of my life for this thing, right? Again, there's a time and a place for adding in that cardio and making sure that it works with the goal. But you have to know yourself. Like for myself, I've been on stage 16 times. I'm good. I'm not interested in living on a cardio piece and suffering with my diet and doing all this thing to get on stage for one day and, not be judged for it. It's not of interest to me. So you got to know where your head is with things and how much you're willing to put in terms of your health and fitness goals or to achieve your health and fitness goals, because that ultimately is going to determine how you sort of set things up with your routine. Now, just to go back, cardio is important. Again, going back to that healthy lifestyle analogy where I'm just saying like you need to get out and do things that are active that you enjoy. Think about things that maybe you would enjoy doing with your children or, maybe a partner or a spouse or a friend group or coworkers that you can make a habit, make it a regular thing. Maybe it's a way that you all come together and you're layering in activities and things that are going to keep you active into your lifestyle that aren't going to keep you at the gym for 2 hours, right? That's not ideal for most of us. It's not how a lot of people want to spend their time unless you're crazy. Like I love being at the gym for 2 hours, but I don't want to be at the gym for 2 hours living on the cardio machine. I would rather be training for probably 90 minutes, taking my time, taking adequate rest, making sure I'm doing enough warm-up sets, doing mobility before, and doing some static stretching and mobility after, and have a really good, just feel good training routine because I love that. That is some other people's nightmare. So you really have to know yourself and what you're willing to do. Cardio is definitely important in terms of heart health and longevity. And also, one thing that a lot of us don't realize is that by adding in some cardio, you are going to actually recover better if you do the smart kind of cardio, right? We're not trying to like run for 30 minutes 4 times a week on top of all your weight training. You want to do something that is going to enhance your strength training routine. So maybe that is an incline walk. Maybe that is, a spin bike or an elliptical, a stair mill that you can do and not have these crazy high intensities that need to be accomplished within those. Those will help with recovery. They're going to help with soreness. They're going to move some of that lactic acid around. The other thing that's really great when you add in a little bit of cardio is that you can recover better between your weight training sets if your aerobic capacity is a little bit better than if you're not doing cardio. So I always know when I am doing a little bit of cardio, whether that's power yoga, right? I'm do a heated power yoga usually once per week. I'll sometimes do some pole dancing. It's a little bit of cardio activity. And also I will get on a machine. I'll do an incline treadmill or I'll do a stair mill. When I'm doing any combination of those things that work for me, I notice it tremendously in my training because when I do a heavy set of hip thrusts and it's time to rest, instead of it taking me like 3 minutes before I feel ready to go into my next heavy set, it might take me 90 seconds. It might take me 2 minutes, right? It might not seem like a big deal, but when you're spending a lot of time in the gym and you're just like, shit, this workout takes me forever because I can't catch my breath or I don't feel ready to go into that next set. I'm still, trying to get my heart rate to come down a little bit. That can actually take up a lot of your gym time. So I've noticed I become way more efficient in my training when I do cardio that actually complements my training sessions versus detracts from them, right? So there is a big difference. Cardio that detracts and cardio that enhances or supplements your strength training is super key when you are trying to build a physique of your dreams. All right, you guys, that was just a little ranty session for you, my beautiful YouTubers. Just a little bit of a ranty session about my thoughts on cardio versus strength training when it comes to physique change and really trying to build a health and hotness routine that complements your lifestyle versus takes away from it while also still trying to achieve your goals. So if you liked this video, make sure you like, and of course subscribe. So that way, we could be homies. We can be besties. And I would love to know what you do for your cardio and your strength training. What is your current split? What have you found to be enjoyable or works for you, and or what isn't working for you? Maybe I can help you troubleshoot that in the comments below. Until next time, YouTube, I'll see you on the next video.